in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create.
We choose truth over facts.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. The foothills of the Himalayas.
Television.
We are fighting Satan himself.
Journalists, ask them the questions! Ask them! Ask them! Ask them!
Agreed that everybody wants to stay inside this. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry. America's dead.
That's right. That's right, folks. America is dead. And we're back.
It's definitely a lot more dead after whatever the fuck we just watched. Jesus Christ.
We're season 3 of the Dying Corpse episode. I don't know where we're going with this. This is the most hectic election season I've ever seen. Probably. I haven't lived through much. I've lived through 3, so I mean, I don't,
Weekend at Joey's continues.
Yeah, so I mean, of voting age, lived through 3. But I remember, dude,
it just gets better. The hits keep coming. They don't stop.
This was Biden's big week. And
yeah, this is
right into it.
This is kind of like, you give your dog chocolate right before you put him down. You're just like, here you go. You get a NATO summit as a treat before we put you in the cryo freezer, the Fallout vault where they just freeze you. I guess I don't know what's going on, but that was 50 Shades of fucked. Let me say.
As you may know, this was Biden's big week. This was Biden's big chance to prove himself, to prove that he's not completely and entirely demented.
Which is crazy because what he did was prove that he was completely entirely demented.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because John Kirby had faith in him. This was. I mean, there was a piece that came out earlier that was talking about how NATO leaders need to be reassured that Biden is not too we'll talk about it here in this clip. But watch this. Now remember,
you look so scared.
I know. This is Biden's big week.
We're not picking up any signs of that.
Yeah, hit that volume up.
You mentioned the context of this summit this week. It's also the first time the president interacted with these world leaders since that the disastrous debate against former President Trump 10 days or so ago, where the president strongly confront the former president on all sorts of things. What is the president's, does the president feel how does he plan to reassure American allies in NATO that he is up for the job now when he couldn't confront Trump on stage there?
I think your question presupposes the notion that they need to be reassured of American leadership and President Biden's commitment, and I don't believe that's the case. We're not picking up any signs of that from our allies at all. Quite the contrary. The conversations that we're having with them in advance, they're excited about this summit. They're excited about the possibilities and the things that we're going to be doing together, specifically to help Ukraine.
Zero. I mean, there have been stories from multiple outlets on both sides of the Atlantic over the last several days with questions from European leaders about the president's capacity to lead the United States. Are you just denying that?
I'm not aware of any such conversations that have been had. Certainly none with us, and here at the White House and with our staff. We're looking forward to it. I want to go back to what I said at the beginning. In the last 3 years, rather than browbeaten and insulting and demeaning allies, this president has invested in allies and partnerships. And when he took office, what I said, only 9 allies had reached the 2% level. Now 23. That's not by accident. That's because of leadership. That's because of constant stewardship of the alliance and other partnerships around the world. The president's record speaks for itself, and the allies and the non-NATO friends and partners that are coming as well, they know that. They wouldn't be coming. New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, to a NATO summit if they didn't believe in American leadership and how important it is, and if they didn't believe that President Biden takes that responsibility extremely seriously.
So let's see how Biden did. Let's have like a little sample before we really. I mean, we're really digging into it. I mean, it was just a big week.
His face.
Let's see how Biden did. Can you understand this? Tell me what he said.
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language. We do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors. The allies in this.
I'm going to play that again.
This room not only share a common language, don't share a common language. We do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors. The
allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language. We do not share a common language, but we are neighbors.
Well,
we've got serious. I think elder abuse going on to a point where, like, you know.
Well, the thing is, it's kind of ironic because he's talking about how we all share a common language, and he's not really speaking in a language that anybody can understand.
He's not speaking any language. He's just speaking.
No, it's just you take a bunch of words and you just throw them at people. That's all he does now. He reaches into a bag of words and he just whips shit at people in these conferences. And somehow he thinks this is a good look. And then he's sitting there and he's like gaslighting people into thinking, you know, what? Don't be ridiculous. I'm staying in this race. Bro, you're just speaking like blender sentences at this point. Like
blenders.
I don't even know how else to describe it. He's just vomiting. He's just vomiting alphabet soup out into the wild.
But I do want to before we cover I do want to cover really briefly because actually shout out to INA News, Reef and Colin, who covered this yesterday. But there was a missile shot at a children's hospital in Kiev, of which Russia was getting a lot of flack for. You can see it here. But with pure bystander footage, you can tell. So since the missiles coming from the children's hospital, that part of the children's hospital came from the west, and verified by Google Earth, that means it's coming from the right and not down from the air, which it would.
Mm-hmm.
And then Che Bose, while BBC and RTE are intentionally lying about the Russian strike of the children's hospital, I'll show a little bit of the headlines. You can see it here. IDF says it entered Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital targeted operation against Hamas. Notice the difference.
Well, yeah, I was
They don't name a country here. They have a quote in the very beginning as like a punchy headline. There's like very tactical, like little propagandas happening here. Propagandies, I'll call them.
Mini propagandas.
Many propagandas.
I was going to say
propaganda. You know what I'm saying? Look at the difference between these headlines. So,
I was going to say,
newsflash, go watch the INN segment, and you'll figure out that this was not from Russia. This was an air defense missile You see some of the damage here. And a lot of people, this is not, I'm not the only one, addressing this as a false flag attack. This feels and smells like a false flag attack. And based on some of the things that were said today at the NATO summit, I really think there's something else going on. Here's irrefutable evidence that this was a Ukrainian air defense mount. And you can tell by the shape and where it's fired from. So tell me about this headline. What do you think this says? No investigation, no work, no understanding. Well, you're never going to get really like a proper story.
Well, the first impression I have is thank God the West finally has a hospital bombing they can feel bad about. After all the fucking hospital bombings that have happened in Gaza constantly, which just there's radio silence over from anybody important.
There's no hospitals left. There's like no hospital.
There's not.
Yeah, there is none.
Well, yes, because this is the genocide that America is supporting is actually doing a genocide as opposed to the genocide that they're projecting, I suppose, onto Russia.
By the way, do you remember this when they went in and disguised as nurses and shot people?
Yeah.
And this is how they're framing it in a targeted operation. They said they went into that, and then this is no words for this. Horror over the Russian bombing of Kiev. No investigation. No nothing.
Yeah, it's so a couple things here. First off, they know damn well that the majority of people are just going to read the headline. That's how like attention deficit we are as a society. Forget ADHD and everything. Just as a society in general. That's how attention deficit we are. So people are just going to read the headline. That's why they're so laser focused on those headlines. And that's why there's such a difference, because the headline that they need to water down heavily, which is obviously Israel's doing the exact same thing as Russia apparently did, is it's a targeted operation. It's very surgical. It's the language here. It's to frame it as something that's very complicated and like controlled and not like sinister. This is all like, don't worry, guys. They're like taking real special care. And then when it comes to the actions of a foreign power that they do not support in the same capacity as Israel, it's horrific and it's a bombing and it's an atrocity. But when it's an ally they are supporting and it does serve their interest, it's an operation. So,
Noam Chomsky, rest in peace.
Yep.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that fake news that was passed around for like a day that was that he died?
Man, that got all of us. I had to delete a tweet because of that. I was like, God damn, Noam Chomsky died. And then later I was like, oh, fuck.
Dude, his Wikipedia was edited. I was like, what the fuck?
And then I coped with it by making a joke saying, I coped and I made a joke out of it and I put Schrodinger's Chomsky. And then everybody liked my tweet and I felt better.
So based on these headlines here, listen to some of the language that they were speaking of just today. And they'll reference this bombing specifically. Watch. And I recommend everyone go watch the INN news segment on this. They streamed it yesterday. So you get a good information more about this on that right there. But listen to what Zelensky's saying now.
Let's hear it.
We, of course, if we want to win, if we want to save our country and to defend it, we need to lift all the limitations. I spoke about it with partners, with UK leader, with United States President, with Secretary, all of them. And I will rise up this topic with very concrete facts. We understand where they stay. We understand from what military base they attack us. And if they attacked us and killed our children in the hospital, that is a crazy question why we can't answer. This person, this military base, where from these guided bombs from jets or missile came, targeted us, killed our children. So for me, that's not rhetoric. For me, it's real plan. And for our people, not for soldiers. Not only for soldiers, that is their job, they understand it. Now this is the plan for all our nations. And we are waiting from our allies, and I'm sure that our friends, allies, will understand all this. We've got very good messages from UK leader, and I hope that we will have we will make such decisions. And of course, again, if we really want to have Ukraine on the map and not to have Putin of the planet, yes, we need to do very concrete steps, quick, very quick steps. And the second part of your question, I forgot, I'm sorry. Orban, he was?
This man forgot a question. He forgot. He just forgot his. He's like.
He's been spending too much time with Biden. He's getting infected with the. Like I didn't think dementia was contagious, but it's apparently contagious.
Okay.
Especially this person, this military base with our children.
Listen very carefully to what he said. He referenced the bombing that we were just talking about.
Facts.
Yeah.
We understand where they stay. We understand from what military base they attack us. And if they attacked us and killed our children in the hospital, that is a crazy question why we can't answer and attack this, especially this person, this military base, where from these guided bombs from jets or missile came.
He's getting heated, and he's begging them to go deep inside Russia and strike deeper.
He's fucking scared. That's all this is. I feel like he's kind of. I think there's a couple things here, and I think it's kind of proven in the comments from Biden today with NATO. But I think the biggest thing here is that he's kind of looking at the writing on the wall and thinking, "Oh shit, Joe Brandon might not win the next election coming up, so we got to figure something out here." There was one reporter that asked about that specifically. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing too is that like this motherfucker, I think he knows he's fighting a losing war. I think he knows deep down that he's not going to win.
No,
so
we covered how he said that they're admitting it. He admitted it.
Yeah,
we have people dying. We can't do this. We need long-range weapons. But the interest happens to never be diplomacy, which is quite strange. And you're going to hear similar language from little Stolty Multi over here.
Multi-Stolty.
First, on the issue of U.S. long-range missiles deployed in Germany. Well, they have announced that there will be periodic deployments of these long-range conventional missiles in Germany. That's that first of all demonstrates the U.S. commitment to NATO, to European security, which I think is a good and very clear and welcomed message. Second, it demonstrates that NATO is about deterrence. The way NATO has prevented war, preserved peace, is by have at all times credible deterrence. We live in
a defensive alliance, peace. We're promoting peace.
More dangerous world.
Oh my God.
The aggressive actions by Russia against Ukraine, and therefore we have stepped up our conventional presence. We have strengthened our collective defense, and periodic deployments of U.S. long-range missiles in Germany is part of that picture, and something I welcome. Then on different meetings conducted by different allied leaders and also the Hungarian Prime Minister.
Yeah, so they're
we have seen Ukraine.
They're perfectly okay with using long-range weapons, a deterrence measure. But but deep into Russia.
Here's the thing. I feel like there's two things going on here. I think number one, I think the Empire is absolutely 100% kind of keeping World War III in their back pocket a little bit. I think the Empire kind of sees the writing on the walls we've covered before. And I think that's probably their last-ditch effort. Just fuck it. Flip the table over. Let's do war. But I mean, also, I also operate in this.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, well, we know Trump is going to be the next president. I mean, it's very.
Of course. Of course.
I mean, I don't expect anything different to come of this when Trump. Like it's like I said, I had a tweet. Gas prices are going to stay the same. We're going to still be in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Nothing. Watch. I just want everyone to, pay attention. Watch nothing change. Nothing.
Well, we have proof of this now.
Silence. We're gonna have pure silence. But
we're gonna have we're gonna hear proof of this now. It's this whole Project 2025 shit that they're the libs are running 24/7 and frothing at the mouth oh my God, they're gonna do a super fascism. Which, first off, it's a heritage foundation. Guys, please, wake the fuck up.
Trump backed away from it twice. He was like, I have no idea what the fuck this is. But it's a lot of his allies. It's not like he's directly involved in it. It's people who's surround his circle are proposing this. And it's, if you actually look at what they're proposing, half of it is stuff that they're already doing. The other, a third of it is stuff that Democrats would also be down for. And then there's maybe two things that are kind of crazy. I think it's banning the National Department of Education, which I think is retarded. But
that's never. Come on, guys.
But that's never going to happen. Do you think they're really going to do that? You really think they're going to do that? They're going to ban.
I mean,
they're going to dismantle the Department of Education.
More importantly, do you think Trump is going to do this? The guy that worked with the deep state and couldn't even get his stupid fucking wall bill. Listen, libs are running a hysterical strategy.
Joe had to finish it for him. Joe had to finish that wall. So.
He did? But libs are running this hysterical strategy, and here's why they're running it. If you want to know why, there's so much hysteria 24/7 about this Project 2025 shit. I'll break it down real quick. They need to cook up a giant boogeyman scary policy to make it seem like these two candidates are worlds apart. They're not. All of Biden's behavior in the last little while has cemented that. These two, as I covered in my psychoanalysis of that interview he did with George Snuffleupagus or whatever, these people are very similar personality-wise and policy-wise as well.
like if we have a president that's like literally demented and that cannot control himself, and like let's say, okay, this is an existential threat, we have to stop Project 2025, so like we have to forgive the dementia, we have to forgive a genocide, we have to forgive multiple wars around the world, but what's stopping like some like inner circle Washington elite to just walking up whispering up to Biden and saying, hey, I'll give you an ice cream if you do Project 2025. I don't know if you heard me, but he whispers into Biden's ear, I'll give you an ice cream if you do a Project 2025. Of course, he's gonna just do whatever they say. That's what he's doing now. So
I mean, again, the level of dissonance, the level of self delusion you have to do to buy into your options, America, being that fucking different is I'm sorry, I have no words. Like nothing is going. I've said this every election cycle now. Obama to Trump, Trump to Biden. I've been right every time. Nothing's going to fundamentally change. Poor are going to get poorer, the rich are going to get richer, and the bombs will never stop falling. So.
Here we go. All right, I'm fixing some stuff up. No. There we go. That's much better. Someone was logged in here and fucked up my shit. I don't know what it was.
Sorry, that was me. I was trolling you. No, I'm kidding.
You changed the scenes in here? I wish this was like, kind of not the same for everyone. But anyway.
It was Vice President Trump.
Can you decipher what Biden's saying here?
Guided this alliance through one of the most consequential periods in its history. I realize, I was talking to your wife, I personally asked you to extend your service. Forgive me. And you put your guided this alliance.
Did he say I'm fucking your wife? Or I was talking to your wife?
Okay.
What do you honestly think?
I honestly think it
the
was
whole
talking.
Crowd was like, "Whoa, what is he doing?"
I think he was
talking about a vet's wife.
I think he was trying to say. I think he was trying to say I was talking to your wife, but because his brain is not, because there's a disconnect from like the speech producing centers of his brain to like the words coming out of his mouth. There's a disconnect there that a lot of the things he says, like I think he has a thought, and from the process of having a thought to words coming out, there's like a traffic jam. There's like a car crash. There's like a 12-car pileup on the freeway. That's what I think's happening here. So he'll come out with gibberish like this, and it'll sound like I was fucking your wife or I was talking to your wife. Some people are in the middle, and they're like, I don't even know. He's barely comprehensible most of the time.
Yeah, I was talking to my parents about this. I was like, do you understand him at all? And like, I'm actually, it's like, I do want to say, like, I got to take off in the next 2 weeks because I'm going to be in a different country. Going to go to the EU, the homeland. So, yeah, I'm going to be with my parents. But I was asking them, like, do you understand anything he's saying at all? Because I don't. Like, I genuinely try to take a listen, and I listen to this all day. I listen to all this shit all the time. I never understand what he's saying.
Well, remember when we were trying to decipher it live in the debate they had? At some point, all of us on the panel were just like, I can't follow him. I can't follow his speech. Like, I can't follow where he's going. Like there's so many times where you try to follow what he's saying and you get lost. And then corporate press just wants to gaslight you 24/7. They're finally after that debate to face the light. And
dude, it was a bad day today.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, you can tell what kind of character he is because he's the most fired up when he's talking about all the war crimes he did in the past. Which is bombing I was going to say, which is where I'm going. I'm going to be in Slovenia and Bosnia and Croatia. So, like, I'm going back to the homeland, and this guy is this motherfucker. He's bragging about my bombing my ancestors, basically.
When war broke out,
or like not like ancestors, but
in the Balkans, we intervened to restore peace and stop ethnic cleansing. And when the United States was attacked on September 11th, our NATO allies, all of you, stood with us. When war broke out in the Balkans.
But yeah, it was not a very great day today. This was the real killer, I think. I think this was the moment we knew Biden was going to be fired.
Heart attack gun. Calling it. Heart attack gun.
Yeah, he's getting 25th Amendmented at any point. You can't do this.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
How smooth was that to you?
I mean,
I'm so focused on beating Putin. I was talking about Putin.
Here's the thing. We're all so used to this at this point. We're all so used to this that like this is the weird part. This is becoming normalized to the point where it's like he could literally say anything. He could be like, "Nice to meet you, Captain Crunch," and he's like shaking hands with Hillary Clinton, and I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." Like, it's normalized. They're normalizing this.
I think it's like a Freemason plot because like I was like reading that there was like I was reading conspiracy or like reading conspiracy theories about like Freemasons like selecting Obama and like on purpose because they wanted to like make fun of the fact that like America had like their first black president or something like that. I think this is like kind of like a mockery, like on purpose. Like he's like selected to like kind of like make like the whole government the joke. Like don't you see it and it's such a clown show that you almost can't believe it.
Here's the thing. If I wanted to introduce a new type of government, not that that's something they're cooking up or anything, I would have to make a way to delegitimize the old type of government. So if I, for example, wanted to like have some kind of global kind of government where everybody, I don't know, owned, maybe didn't own a lot of stuff, and they were compelled to be somewhat happy, for example. And maybe they consumed forms of protein that were crunchier, for example. What I would have to do is first I would have to delegitimize the current style of government, because you can't come in and offer any kind of like tangible alternative without making the case as to why the current system needs to change. So putting my tinfoil hat on, because I mean, like this. Here's the thing, guys. This guy has been making fucking gaffes for years. His brain has been shitting and farting for his whole term, essentially.
His whole life, yeah.
And if they didn't want the public to see that, they just wouldn't show it. But now
it's like okay.
They're showing it and they're commenting on it. And I know it's because that debate...
This is part of the circuses in the British.
Yeah. And I know that debate went poorly. Really poorly. About as bad as a debate could possibly go. But I mean, at the end of the day, what if they took that as an off-ramp? They're like, okay, debate's going to go bad. Maybe we'll give him less... adrenochrome or whatever. We'll give him less baby blood in his in his, evening cocktail. And he just goes out there and shits the bed because his brain stops working. At the end of the day, you're undermining the legitimacy of government. And then what's going to happen next? Well, Orange Man's probably going to come back in. And he's probably going to do a bunch of shitty stuff. We've been calling this here on Politically Homeless for a while. He's probably going to go back in and do the let's support Israel thing and do the demonize China thing.
Do the Josh slide? No, I was just trying to finish your sentence, but there's a delay.
Okay. And that'll further delegitimize government. And at some point, shit's going to get so bad that someone's going to have to offer a solution. And all I'm going to warn everybody is if that solution comes from moneyed interests, comes from the bourgeois class in one iteration or another, one of which is absolutely the World Economic Forum, then you'll know we were right.
And then they can blame it on Trump.
I think that's the plan. I think the plan is to blame.
I'm not looking forward to the headlines, personally.
I'm not looking forward to
the look on Zelensky's face. Sorry.
No, go for it.
But right after this. Whoops. I just had this. I didn't even know this was. I was looking at a different screen. There's my bio moment.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin.
Isn't it?
He's at the point where he's got to ask, he's got to wonder if he's just being trolled.
And he can't say anything.
Like, what am I?
Funniest part.
He's like, what am I? What the fuck am I doing here? Like, what is happening? God damn.
Oh, let's do that one more time.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin.
He can't say anything about it because he has no money. He depends on them for the money.
Yeah, he's not going to talk shit. He knows where his bread's buttered.
So what were you going to say about Trump and the future of this election exactly?
I think the plan is, here's what I think the plan is. I think they want Trump in because they need a bad guy. I've said this a million times before. I'll say it again. I think they want a bad guy to come in and kind of get their hands dirty. I think we're going to see the Taiwan arc finally pop off. I think we're going to see escalations in Israel-Palestine. I absolutely see that. And the corporate press is just going to run Orange Man bad 24/7. But what they're also going to do is they're going to blame everybody for not supporting the corpse hard enough in these dark times. So we'll see, look what you did. You didn't support him enough, so now you got Orange Man. I don't think anyone who runs I don't think anyone who runs in the DNC has a shot. I think the rich and powerful have kind of decided, okay, this is the guy we need for this. I think we're probably going to see some kind of bird flu related situation. I think it's going to focus on food. I think I'm pretty sure that's the main focus. Just looking at the focus of words and articles and what they're talking about when it comes to bird flu, I think they're using the fear of it fucking up all the people as a like scare tactic, but I think what they really want to go after is the food. And then after Orange Man shits the bed and makes everything fundamentally worse, because he will. I'm going to be honest, I don't think the Empire is a plan after that. I think we are in like a late stage Civ game where the West is about to lose. Their opponent is about to score like economic, diplomatic, and cultural victories. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think the West knows that. So I think the only real roads they have forward are war or complete self-destruction. Now, if they were a smart nation actually governed by the people, we'd all just go like, oh, well, fuck, BRICS sounds pretty base. Let's join BRICS. Why don't we all just work together as countries like, you know, just trying to make life good for everybody else? We can go explore space. We can turn this shit into Star Trek. We can, you know.
Which this was an interesting development today. Putin today said that BRICS is going to have its own parliament, like the UN almost.
That's fucking cool.
Форменной парламентской структуры. Но полагаю, что в будущем эта идея обязательно реализуется.
He said it will definitely be implemented in the future. They're gonna have their own parliament.
That's super based.
This is what the rest of the world is doing while we're shitting our pants in public. This is embarrassment on the world stage. And they're just getting roasted left and right. Like we're at the point where like we're just roasting this administration over and over again. But no one just seems to be doing anything about it because we have such a like
Listen.
state.
Listen, I mean, when you get Jon Stewart, like when Jon Stewart turns on you, you're fucked. Oh, Smirkula, I hate this dude so much. He's such a weird vampire.
Group report. It's a medical magazine, British medical magazine, that estimated the deaths as a result of the war in Gaza to be 186,000. And of course, it's taken into account, the experts took into account indirect deaths, you know, that have happened thus far and may happen, including disease.
So what Graham Husseini is asking him about a Lancet study that was published that was saying the actual official death count in Gaza is 186,000. Now, actually, months before this, Ralph Nader was saying that it's 200,000 or more, which is like months ago. So it's probably like maybe even more than that. Like I even think 186,000 is low, but you know, that's a stutter. That, you know, it's stunning. You know, for a major publisher like the Lancet. I mean, I don't know if it's peer reviewed or not, but either way, like, they said it's not implausible that they just destroyed 8% of the population. Let's see what Matt Miller's response. This is who Biden picked as a state spokesman.
I have seen the report, and I will just say whatever the number of civilians that have actually died as a result of this conflict, we know that it's far too many. Yeah. And far too many civilians have been needlessly killed as a result of this conflict. And that is why we are working so hard, including negotiations that are going on this week to try to reach a ceasefire that would alleviate the suffering in Gaza, that would bring home the hostages that continue to be held, and ultimately put us on a path to hopefully ending the war.
So are you concerned that, you know, the figures could be far more staggering than what we've seen published by, let's say, the Ministry of Health in Gaza? I mean, you know, I remember early on, the Assistant Secretary of State, Barbara Lee, told I guess one of the committees on Capitol Hill that the deaths may actually be more than what the ministry, the health ministry, I'm asking.
Sure. The death toll could very well be more. We know there are potentially people who are under rubble who have not been counted. But it goes to the point I was making. Whatever the number is, the reported number already is far too high. The reported number already is unacceptable. The number of civilian deaths. So, of course, something higher than that would just be further tragedy. But we long ago passed the stage where this has been a horrific human tragedy for some time. Go ahead with another question.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm not even going to entertain that.
I love how someone called his ass out for this shit. I love how someone.
Finally. Listen, let's jump into French elections real quick.
Oh yeah, y'all probably heard about the election results in France, which apparently were unprecedented.
If you want to jump into this is, I mean, from what I know about this, from the French elections, is that I mean, so they had a first round, and it didn't. No one won. Then, like on the second round, the new popular national front won, and the leader even said like one of his priorities is to recognize the state of Palestine. So if France were to recognize the state of Palestine, that's a big deal.
Yep.
Responds. I call my response today, French elections matter. And I want to stress that the reporting on the French activities of the last 2 to 3 weeks leading up to their two-part election, late June, early July, has been among the worst examples of dishonest reporting in the mainstream that I have ever seen. And I've seen plenty, as have all of you. So I want to first begin by explaining that up until literally the late part of July 7th, the date of the second tour of the French elections, American newspapers, and quite a few around the world as well, reported on the French elections, if they reported on it at all, as though there were a great struggle between the president of that country, Mr. Macron, and an extreme right-wing conservative challenge around the French name of Le Pen. That was it. We were told that that was the issue. We were told that it was part of a global shift to the political right, in which middle-of-the-road centrists like Macron in France, like, believe it or not, Sunak in Britain, who had fallen to defeat, total defeat, literally a few days earlier. Nonetheless, we were told it was to the right that European politics was going. That was all wrong. That was all not true. And there were plenty of sources, individuals, movements, studies that could have been cited, should have been cited, to show that this was incorrect. But it fit what you wanted to understand. Sadly, here in the United States, it seemed to fit the idea that if you have a centrist like Biden challenged by a right-winger like Trump, well, then that must be the way it is in the world altogether. This is often untrue. The United States has been supporting Ukraine. Most of the rest of the world either doesn't or doesn't care. The United States has been supporting Israel in Gaza. Most of the rest of the world disagrees. But
that is, for the most part, true. Like, we give Ukraine by far the most money. I mean,
100%.
But
oh yeah, Trudeau's all up in there.
Kind of like, yeah, the other behavior of the other countries are like kind of.
But you wouldn't know that from the press, where there's much more coverage that suggests, implies, or simply boldly states what is wrong. With the hindsight of the election, let's see what was actually going on. France has a long history of making the changes that come elsewhere in the world a few months or a few years later. The whole introduction of capitalism to the world might have begun in England in the 17th century, but it was the French Revolution at the end of the 18th century that made it a global transformation. The French rose up, being mostly feudal serfs, and ended feudalism. No more feudal lords to lord it over them. No more dominant Roman Catholic Church working hand in glove with the lords to control the mass of the French people. The dominance of the church, like the dominance of the lords, was swept away in the French Revolution. Yes, I know, if you know your history, that in came an effort to go back once that revolution had finished. It started with Napoleon, and it went on for some decades after that. But it never recovered. Feudalism never really returned to France because it couldn't, because the mass of people had said, we don't want it. And how did the mass of people express that? They expressed it in two ways. Number one, the activists, the vanguard, you might call them, the leaders, made a revolution. That's what you've heard about, storming the Bastille, the prison in Paris where opponents of feudalism were incarcerated. Yeah, and the guillotine. Yeah, and the end of the monarchs, the Louis and their cohorts. But the mass of people participated in other ways, by taking over the feudal manors and telling the lords, go, you're done. The quiet ways, in little elections that were set up, in little communes that were formed in villages and towns. They recognized the leadership of those who made the dramatic acts of the revolution, but they made equally important, if less dramatic, acts. Why am I telling you this? Because we watched one recently in France. When the dust settled, the overwhelmingly number one political party in France, the new Popular Front, as they called themselves, was, get ready, my fellow Americans, a socialist political party. It was actually a collection of four parties: the French Communist Party, the French Socialist Party, the French Green Party, and the biggest of them all, the new one, relatively to those older ones, called France Unbowed, La France Insoumise. And they were led by the last one, the biggest one, by a very firebrandy leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. You never heard his name? That's because of the way the news was reported. You didn't hear most of this, and you certainly didn't hear it this way. They're the number one party. The elections said that the French people want socialist leadership, and that's what they've got. If you look closely at the vote, here's how it breaks down. Roughly a bit more than a third of the French people vote for the right wing, Le Pen. If you like, roughly similar to Donald Trump, etc., in the United States. Another third vote for the socialists. The country's mostly split between those two. 2/3 of the French people either vote the right or they vote the left. You know what's left for the sitting center president? A bare third, not even a third. In the final vote on July 7th, the right wing had 10 million votes, the left wing had 9 million votes, and the sitting incumbent president's party got 6.5 million votes, not even in the running. The French people have therefore issued a verdict on centrism, and that verdict can be summarized as follows. We don't want it, we don't like it, we don't trust it, and we vote against it. Because that's what they did twice. Once on June 30th, again on July 7th. Don't be misled by lousy reporting now. And it isn't lousy in the sense of incomplete or inadequate. It's tilted. It's carefully cultivated. You might rewrite the New York Times slogan, all the news is print to fit, and to fit an image of the world that doesn't want to admit that the United States is increasingly isolated, that the kinds of changes sweeping the rest of the world are not yet here in the United States. But I want to conclude on that point because it drives home how and why French elections matter. It's coming here too. My own guess is we can make a direct analogy. Somewhere between a quarter and a third of Americans are taken by the Trump phenomena, the way the French are, disgusted by the middle, disgusted by having been betrayed with promises of Republicans and Democrats, center left, center right, for decades, as the situation for them, the mass of people, declines. Yeah, they like to see it as a problem for America in the world. They like to see bad politicians over there. Yeah, they're distracted. They think maybe the immigrants are the problem rather than a convenient scapegoat. But it's only about a third. And they too will be disabused of what they've come to believe in when they see that it brings no real change at all. Lots of symbols, but no real change. And symbols, after all, is what the center has been giving us Americans for decades. Then there's the other third in France, the third that rose up, voted twice, and put socialists in charge. That third is here too. That third exists here in the United States. It's not well organized. It doesn't have a long history in a socialist and a communist and a green party and a new left dominant bigger than all of them. No, it doesn't have that. It lacks organization. It lacks that third, finding the people that can bring them together into 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. And then what could happen in the United States is exactly what happened in France. The center would be pushed to the margins. Goodbye, Bush. Goodbye, Clinton. Goodbye, fill in the blank. Yeah, I think it is coming, as it often has. France taking the steps first, helping others to see what those steps are, each in their own individual national circumstance, each country's own culture, its own political past. Yeah, they'll do it their own way. It has to be. But they'll get the inspiration, they'll get the broad outlines from France.
Yeah, I was going to say, the one caveat that I'm kind of like, it's kind of like blinking in my mind here. France does like have a very revolutionary culture and a very revolutionary history. Our history is very much the opposite of that. Like we're like Adam Smith, like, you know, pure like anti-communist. Like we're like the birthplace of anti-communism. So I would argue like gathering a coalition like that in a country like this is more difficult. Although I would argue most of the people in this country are the left. But
so, couple thoughts. First off, also, again, I love your ability to just pause on the greatest freeze frame on every video. That's so just a couple things I want you guys to think about. So, you know, all those so-called socialists online who spend 90 to 95% of their day you know, basically starting fights with people, calling anybody to like an inch like to any direction of them on any sort of wedge issue, like fascist, evil, Nazi, pat sock, whatever the fuck. That's not an accident. There's not an accident that you see so many wrecker accounts that just magically pop up whenever people are like forming any kind of movement whatsoever and like purity test and agitate and start like all sorts of shit. That's not by accident. That's because countries like France don't do that. They actually organize along class lines. They actually form coalitions. The reason why it doesn't happen here is because there is an invested effort, an invested and a persistent effort to keep the country divided. That's the biggest difference, and that's the thing we have to fight against, no matter what. Here in the West, here in North America, there is a massive effort to keep people divided. And if you want a quick test on how to tell if someone's acting in good faith or not, take any issue and ask yourself, am I allowed to have the middle ground on this issue? Am I allowed to have a reasonable position? Or am I purposefully forced into one box or another box? That's, in my opinion, how you can kind of tell. Because there's so many issues in North America where you have to have one extreme position or another extreme position. And those kind of tactics are meant to divide you. Because if you ever set those minor differences aside and organize together, you'd get something like France. And it would result in some kind of leadership that didn't represent the needs of the rich and powerful, but represented the needs of the people. They'd shove those fuckers out, but they can't have that. Also, another quick point, but this is just my take, but I think this whole like Europe's becoming right-wing narrative, in my personal opinion, it's because certain elements that have been co-opted by the bourgeoisie have been overtaken by the agents of capital. You saw this a lot in the COVID era when Europe was, proceeding with actions and turning out studies that weren't convenient to the whole big pharma narrative. Suddenly Europe was right-wing. And now a big portion of Europe is kind of changing their position on gender-affirming care for kids, which, we gotta... Sorry, libs, we gotta follow the fucking science, right? So let's follow it. If we were wrong on this, then we were wrong. We'll course correct. But again, seeing a lot of, why is Europe turning right-wing? I think we are so psyoped in the West that just any narrative that isn't an establishment narrative, you're now just a right-winger. And I think that's because the rich and powerful understand that just right-wing policies, right-wing anything, just isn't fucking popular on paper. They know it's not popular. So they have to lump that in, because the average person probably doesn't agree with a lot of this. They have to lump that in with actual right-wing supporting people. That's where I think this whole narrative about Europe becoming right-wing, whatever the fuck that means, came from.
I don't know. Most of it is like center left from what I see. But it's so impressive of France. I don't know. Is it worth watching the last 2 minutes?
Not really.
I got this guy on 1.25 speed, and he still talks like super slow.
I like it though. He talks at a speed that like he makes everything easily digestible. Again, Wolf has a W rate that's pretty fucking high. The thing with
he's batting pretty average. Yeah.
He's bad with politics, and that's because he's not a politician. You have to listen to him as an economics professor, as a doctor, as a person who's going to school you on how capitalism affects politics. But as far as actual politics, that's not his wheelhouse. And you got to judge people in their wheelhouse. So I think that at least the TLDR for me is I think that's why there's so much like wrecker behavior and division and let's cook up Project 2025 or whatever in the West. It's because they don't want this kind of shit happening. They don't want different forces joining together and going, fuck this. You guys aren't speaking to us. So we're taking the driver's seat. And I think we gotta overcome that. And I think the only way to overcome that is to just stop listening to the wreckers. Stop letting yourself get divided. Who cares what the corporate press is saying? Who cares what that 50,000 follower Twitter account that joined a year ago is saying? Who cares? Do what you're going to do. And realistically, what you need to do is you need to organize along class lines. You need to start banding together and saying, you know what? I don't like the way my fucking country's being run. Right? So that's just my take on it. But I think
you have a police. You get into a whole I'm not going to argue against that. I think the really big thing that's stopping people is the police state.
Well,
with a
that
government
too.
that's pretty much, I mean, like the capitalist class is protected by a heavily armed police state that is welcome to kill you without any consequences. So, I mean, it's a combination of fear and apathy. I agree with that. Let me Google back up. Let's dig a little bit back more into the Biden implosion that's happening currently.
This is just, man. This is
You wanted to
fucking
start with
good.
the Morning Joe segment? 3 days ago?
Fucking.
How old is this? I mean, it's not that big a deal.
That leads to the letter that we just received a few minutes ago. And I'm curious, there's a part of it where you talk about the fact that you got 14 million votes, 87% of the vote. It was an open process. You only had 3 people running against you. You have 3,900 delegates. And then you ask this question, do we now just say the process didn't matter, that the voters didn't have a say? I'm curious, is that an allusion also to Donald Trump and the fact that Democrats, you believe, may now be doing the same thing that Donald Trump tried to do in 2020, and that is overthrow the popular will of Democratic voters?
Well, look, Joe, let me say it this way. The reason I've been out on the road so much all over the country, and while Trump is riding around in a golf cart, filling out his golf cart before he even hits the ball. But anyway, he hadn't been anywhere in 10 days. I've been all over the country, number one.
That was a nervous laugh from Meek over there. When he said golf cart.
Yep.
Okay. But this is not the real Biden. This is an AI. I don't know why they would make the AI fuck up, but like, I don't believe this is the actual real Biden.
You think he's AI?
I've been over the country for several reasons. One, to make sure my instinct was right about the party still wanting me to be the nominee. And all the data shows that the average Democrat out there who voted, the 14 million of them that voted for me, still want me to be the nominee, number one. Number two, the idea that Donald Trump has gained in any substantial way, has his argument to why he should be president is anywhere convincing than it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. It's just not there. And we're just starting to focus on Trump. And look, I attended services, spoke to over 600 people at Mount Airy Church of God in Christ in Philly. I stopped by campaign field offices with John Fetterman and Madeline Dean, both strongly supporting me. The president and the first lady, we spoke at a campaign ice cream social for APSME. Council 13 in Harrisburg. 40 minutes after we spoke with supporters, stopped by Denham Coffee. I was with the governor of Pennsylvania, who's still strongly supporting me. I mean, so look, and the fact is that this week,
there's nothing being said.
Detroit, Michigan, for a campaign event. Just on down the line. And so I'm not getting any of what I was told. I wanted to make sure I was right, that the average voter out there still wanted Joe Biden. And I'm confident they do. And I'm confident, and like I said, the press is with me. I think they've been fairly fair. I haven't read any reporting they did today. But the fact is that, I think...
He didn't watch his own debate. He doesn't read any of the press on him.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a typical narcissist. If he knew it would be positive. Hey, Kipton. If he knew he would be positive, he'd eat that shit up. But he knows deep down it's going to be negative. And so he avoids it because that's going to cause a wound to his ego. At this point, I think he's right up there with Trump. I think the narcissism is. I think it's just both like they both probably just have. They both probably just have full blown MPD. Yeah.
Let's we had large crowds, enthusiastic crowds. And, and now they're talking about whether I use a prompter. Well, I did it all extemporaneously. The fact of the matter is, I was using prompters too. I don't get that. But at any rate, the bottom line here is that we're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I wouldn't be running if I didn't absolutely believe that I am the best candidate to beat Donald Trump in 2024. We had a Democratic nominating process where the voters spoke clearly. I won 14 million of those votes, et cetera. So I not only believe that from the beginning, but I wanted to reassert it and demonstrate that it's true. And I'm going to be doing that all through this week and from here on.
So we noted yesterday there was quite a contrast. The people that were supporting you yesterday compared to, say, a lot of the Washington insiders and Hollywood moguls, and go down the list of very powerful people that want you out compared to the support that you had in Pennsylvania yesterday. That said, there are a lot of people of goodwill who love you, who believe you did a great job in your first term, who are still concerned. Yesterday, the topic came up of the Stephanopoulos interview, where you were asked the question, how do you feel if Donald Trump beat you? How would you feel after you lost? And you said, well, as long as I did the best I could do, that's the most important thing.
He said the goodest, to be clear.
He did say goodest. Yeah.
That's caused Democrats concern, who believe that losing is not an option. What would you say to those who are concerned by that answer?
It's not an option. And I've not lost. I haven't lost. I beat him last time. I'll beat him this time. And this is a guy who, look, we talk about debates. Look at his performance at debates. He lied over, Trump has 50 lies. Look, this is a guy who says 10% of the universe. I want to get into it. He's just a liar. And he hasn't done a damn thing since the debate. He's been riding around in a golf cart for 10 days, or down in Mar-a-Lago talking with his wealthy friends. I'm not running because of these guys, Joe. I'm running because, and you know me well enough to know this from the very beginning, I ran because I never bought on to the trickle-down economic theory. I never bought into the notion that we have to walk away from the rest of the world and cave to Putin or anybody else. I've never...
He keeps talking about this trickle economic down, like as if he's not practicing this right now.
As if that isn't like his pure economic platform.
Like
it's incredible.
I never believed any of that. And I'm confident that's who the American people are. So what I did was I went out and I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any slippage at all. And with the average voter, I don't care what the millionaires think. And by the way, 97% of all the people who contribute to us are people making under 200, contributing under $200. I think we have the largest contingent ever in history. I'm not positive of that, but I think that's true. And so I want their support, but that's not the reason I'm running. I'm not running about what they think and what they care about. And by the way, you don't see a whole hell of a lot of them flocking to Trump. You don't see a whole lot of CEOs flocking to Trump. You don't see you see the major economists out there talking about what I have been able to do. I don't hear anybody talking about his economic plan likely to bring America around and keep America first. And by the way, here's Trump talking about all that he's done and Trump and his debate night. He's a pathological liar. He lied about Roe. He refused to accept the outcome of the election. He refused to condemn January 6th. And he says, they claim he spoke with Putin before he invaded. What the hell are we doing, Joe? What are we doing? This is bizarre.
No.
It's a good question. I have a few questions, Mr. President, and I know you know where I stand. And yet, I have a few questions. First, it's very simple. How can you assure the American people that you won't have another night like the one you did in Atlanta?
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night, and I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be on faith.com intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old. created over 15 million jobs, 21 million insured for the ACA, beat Big Pharma.
20 million insured ACA.
5 million people, first black woman in the court. So I think I had a significant run, and that's how I'd measure me. Measure me what I've done. And by the way, in terms of my neurological capacity, I had a physical, a neurological physical as well in February. It's released. I released all my records, all of them. And I have a neurological test every single day. Try sitting behind this desk and making these decisions. You know it. Both of you know it.
You can't have that every single day.
I'm not bad at what I do. And now, I mean, I never make a mistake. I do. But I'm making those decisions.
Mr. President, if anybody in my family had a night like that, like if my Joe had a night like that, or my kids or anybody, I'd probably want to do some sort of workup and medical workup and make sure he's okay. Have you been tested for any age-related illnesses, pre-Parkinson's, or anything like that that might explain sort of having a night like that where you couldn't finish sentences?
Look, I had before, I was feeling so badly before the debate. When I came back, they tested me for, I thought maybe I had COVID, maybe there was something wrong, I had an infection or something. They tested me, they gave me those tests, I was clear. So, but look, I had a bad night. But the fact of the matter is, look at what I'm doing. I mean, let me put it this way. If there was something that was wrong that night, it's not like it comes and that's one night and it goes away. That's why I've been out. I've been testing myself, been testing everywhere I go, going out and making the case. The night of that debate, I went out. I was out till 2 o'clock in the morning that very night. That very night, it drives me nuts, people talking about this. That very night, I was talking to large crowds. Look at the crowds we've gathered everywhere from Atlanta to North Carolina to Pennsylvania. And look at the enthusiasm. But it was right after. And where the hell's Trump been? What has Trump said or done except deny and lie about what he's for?
They're so awkward about this.
So you have repeatedly said that all of these people and entities are wrong. And let me go through them. The New York Times editorial board, The Economist, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Boston Globe, Jerry Nadler, Seth Moulton. Let me go to Julian Castro, Tim Ryan, David Axelrod, David Remnick, Richard Haas. Yeah, I know which one you're responding to there. Zeke Emanuel. But they are saying that you should.
They treat him like they treat him like a kid. They treat him like a little kid.
They have to.
Step aside.
One because his brain doesn't work, but B, because he's a narcissist. They're all Arrested Development is a hallmark.
His pitch just gets like randomly loud sometimes. He's like randomly loud or very quiet.
Forward.
These are big names. Keep doing their big names, but I don't care what those big names think. They were wrong in 2020. They're wrong in 2022 about the red wave. They're wrong in 2024. And come out with me. Watch people react. You make a judgment. You make a judgment. And by the way, I'm going to have all these foreign leaders here. I've been in contact with the new British Prime Minister, anyway. Look, the country, the rest of the world.
Did he just have a stroke?
Probably.
Did this man just have a stroke?
I'm going to have all these
Joe
foreign
Biden
leaders
is
here. I've been in
just
contact with the new
a mini stroke at this point.
Prime Minister, anyway.
All right. He's a Todd Howard game.
The country, the rest of the world is looking, our allies are looking for U.S. leadership. Who else do you think could step in here and do this? I expanded NATO. I solidified NATO. Ask your brother about it in Poland. I made sure that we're in a position where we have a coalition of people, of the nations around the world to deal with China, with Russia, with everything that's going on in the world. We're making real progress. The Biden plan, which got in Israel for the Gaza Strip, is something that was adopted by the UN Security Council. Whether it comes to
something that was adopted by the UN Security Council. This man's bragging about Gaza right now.
So I'm gonna provide a brief breakdown of this. Joe Biden cannot handle these constant pushbacks. He enjoyed nothing but just people glazing him up. And now that the tide's kind of turning, you'll notice he gets more agitated. He gets more belligerent. He gets visibly heated. It gets worse throughout this. This is what's called narcissistic rage. It's when you lose control over a situation and a narcissist suffers repeated blows to their ego to the point where they can't control it with manipulations or with like excuses any longer. And I don't think he's cognitively able to navigate these sort of situations the way he used to. So he's getting heated. There'll be a temper tantrum soon. Just let's keep going.
Awful close. We'll see. G7's but look, I'm not going to explain anymore about what I should or shouldn't do. I am running. And if you want to stop me,
I wanted to ask you, it's so interesting. You talked about how, you were supposed to lose in 2020. You won. There's supposed to be a huge wave in 2022. There wasn't. In 2023, Republicans were supposed to win. They didn't. You could say the same thing about France. Le Pen was supposed to win in 2 years ago. She ended up getting crushed. Her party, her far-right nationalist extreme party, was supposed to win yesterday. They ended up getting crushed. I'm curious, what message do you take from the French elections and the British elections? Because we keep hearing about the rise of far-right nationalist extremism in Europe. But I've got to say, it looks like this past week has been the worst week for far-right nationalists between Britain and France. I'm wondering what you say about that and what message you take to NATO allies this week.
Look, Joe, let's get something clear about 20 and 24. Not only were they wrong, I said they were wrong beforehand. I said we were going to win and how we're going to win. I didn't pretend about it. It wasn't like, oh my God, I was surprised. I was not surprised. I predicted it. I knew what we were doing. Number one. Number two, you may remember, I was one of the few people out there publicly saying before the 2022 election, there will be no red wave. There will be no red wave. Because I've been all over the country. I didn't believe it at all. And then in 2023, the key elections, I went into those races. Not every one of them, but a lot of them. And I said we were going to win. Look, we won those. So, Joe, it wasn't just that it didn't happen. I was predicting beforehand it would not happen. Because I've got a pretty good political instinct and eye. And here's the deal. It's not going to happen here this time around. The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance. Number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support?
What? So, like, he gets like riled up, and it's like this anger towards
what's happening. Okay, so what's happening is he's becoming progressively more agitated because he's detecting correctly opposition from the people he's talking to. He called in to these fuckers because he wanted them to fluff his balls the whole time. But the thing is, they have their marching orders. And they're like, donors aren't too happy with you. The rich and powerful aren't too happy with you. I gotta kind of not. Yeah, I gotta push back, buddy. And he's growing. He's growing it. You'll see it a little further here. He's getting more and more agitated because he's not getting any validation from them. If you look at this whole interview, they started out, but now they're just pushing back. Everything he's saying, they have to push back for.
not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild.
I don't think the stress has got to do. The stress is definitely can't be good for his dementia or his Parkinson's.
No, or his narcissism.
Having, like, knowing how it's like all like back on like.
Build the economy for hardworking middle-class people. Give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance. Number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but the biggest hard.
Can we just talk about the, what? So like, we know that the questions are scripted. There was a story that came out earlier today that was about like Milwaukee radio that had said that all the interviews are edited by the White House beforehand. And so he this is scripted out for him. Why?
I think he's losing it. I think he is legitimately. I think he's legitimately.
No red wave for the 2022 election. There will be no red wave. There will be no red wave. Because I've been all over the country. I didn't believe it at all. And then in 2023, the key elections, I went into those races. Not every one of them, but a lot of them. And I said we were going to win. Look, we won those. So, Joe, it wasn't just that it didn't happen. I was predicting beforehand it would not happen. Because I've got a pretty good political instinct and eye. And here's the deal. It's not going to happen here this time around. The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people. Give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance. Number one.
Fair chance.
Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party, who they know so much more.
Elites in the party.
But any of these guys don't think I should run against me. Go ahead, announce the president. Challenge me at the convention. You know, on Europe, the polls are wrong in France. They're also right. There's no right wave or tide here in America either. By the way, in case you're wondering whether there is one, have you ever seen Trump run away so fast from what he's for? You know he's going to do it anyway, but have you ever, he's such a liar. This guy, everybody knows what they're planning to do. And now he's saying, no. This guy is going to rip away at a woman's right to choose in a permanent way. This guy is going to make sure that he exacts revenge. This guy's going to destroy democracy. This guy's going to give a blank check to the Supreme Court and going to use it to pass the 2025 agenda. You know, this guy's extremely dangerous. But you notice he doesn't speak up for what he really is for. He's all of a sudden realizing, oh my God, nobody's for what I'm for. But anyway, look, and again, think of the things he lied about. He talked about he gave the largest tax cut in history. Yeah, he gave the largest tax cut in history to millionaires and billionaires. He said that he's going to, the 10% universal tax proposal is not going to drive prices higher. Every major economist in the world is saying it's going to drive the average $2,500 per person. Only jobs we created for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs and bounce back from COVID. Give me a break. That's what he said at the convention. At the debate. Everything he said.
That's probably about it.
He largely fixed COVID. Are you kidding me? And what happened? Nobody said anything. Except me and the folks.
The end of this is like AI. He went to sleep at this point.
Yeah, here's the thing. I just wanted to kind of highlight the tantrum, because this is a man, and you can see this anytime he feels like he loses control or he gets any pushback and doesn't get the validation. I just want you guys to know, okay? The way he's ranting and raving here, is this any fucking different whatsoever from the same bullshit Trump does about Biden or about Hillary. It's the same shit. He's gassing himself up while putting the other guy down, and he's doing that to cope with getting pushback when he's expecting validation. It's the same thing. America, you don't have a choice. It's either this team or that team, both helmed by narcissists who don't care about your material conditions, and they just want endless fucking war. That's that. So,
I mean, Joe did have a big day today. It was his big boy day. At least according to
the craziest thing about today. One thing I didn't expect. I expected a whole range of questions. I didn't expect. Okay, well, let's play this first.
No, finish your thought.
I didn't expect every single fucking question, and I know you guys probably tuned into the conference after waiting like 28 years for it to start. There was a point when I was waiting where I was like, this motherfucker's dead. He died. He's dead. They're trying to figure it out. They played that awkward footage at the beginning where it's just a bunch of people running around and like popping up from the ground, and that one awkward dude that just standing there like.
And then it cuts to commercial. Technical difficulty.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
It was just a mess.
This was the big deal. This was supposed to be the big day, the NATO summit on top of the big boy conference. Listen to this. This was supposed to be the day.
Big boy press conference. Big boy press conference. A big boy press conference. Hold a press conference. A big boy press conference.
Press conference. I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it. The press conference. The big boy press conference. I think y'all are planning to have.
Gives his press conference. His big boy press conference. Big boy press conference. Big boy press conference. A big boy press conference. Hold a press conference. A big boy press conference.
Press conference. I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it. The press conference. The big boy press conference. I think y'all are planning to have.
Gives his press conference. His big boy press conference. Big boy.
They really are infantilizing the fuck out of him. Holy shit.
So let's check out the first question from Joe Biden's big boy press conference.
Okay.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
Yeah, just look it up.
It's a bunch of memes, but I want to hear the whole thing, and we're gonna watch that too. But this is insane.
Vice President Trump immediately just popped off. Because we're like, what the fuck?
President Trump to be vice president, but I think she President Trump to be not.
I'm looking for the full question.
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one.
Yeah, let's start there.
What concerns do you have?
Let's start there. Let's start
there with me not being able to properly name my own vice president. Let's start there. Let's just kick it off the same way we kicked off the debate and everything else. And at the same time, I'm going to assure everybody that my brain is fine and definitely not just like a bunch of radioactive sludge at this point.
Look at John Kirby over here. This is so funny.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
He's got the chin on. He's like,
the fact is that
they're all just like, fuck.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not
Anthony
qualified
Blinken's
to be
like,
president. So let's start there. Number one. The fact is that the consideration.
Bro, America's so cooked. America's so cooked.
This is not a great look. This is not the best look.
This is just sad. Sad for the whole family.
Terrible.
That is indeed one ugly row of warmongering monsters, Cookies. Spot on.
But this time, no one cowered in appeasement, especially the United States. We collected intelligence that Russia was planning to invade Ukraine months before the invasion.
Like the Maidan coup that they facilitated in 2014, that he was vice president for.
Oh no, that's just Russian disinformation. That didn't happen.
And like he overthrew that Ukrainian lawyer. You know, the that one Burisma case. I mean, you got to put all the pieces together here. Of course you knew in advance, buddy. Of course you did.
My commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people.
I wonder what that means.
I mean, I thought it was so unprecedented, Joe.
Say it.
I thought that was so sudden and unexpected. Oh, this is good. This is great.
And we've reestablished direct contact with China after that. Remember the balloon, quote unquote, going down? All of a sudden, things came to an end.
The balloon?
What does it have to do with reestablishing contact with China,
direct
Joe?
Contact with China after that. Remember the balloon, quote unquote, going down? All of a sudden, things came to an end. Well, we set up a new mechanism. There's a direct line between she and me, and we.
Oh my God!
We're in some pretty bad territory. Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird like dichotomy. It almost feels like a psyop. You're seeing in real time this person's brain just completely fail. And in the same sense, you're seeing him and a bunch of loyalists tell you, like, the emperor is still wearing clothes. And everybody, he even lost, holy fuck, he lost Rob Reiner, for Christ's sake. Even Rob Reiner's like, we love you. I love you. I have a picture of you in my bedroom, but it's time to step down. Even his biggest loyalists are like, bro, just get the fuck out of here, please. Just go away. We don't want more Orange Man bad. And I think what deep down they mean is we don't want like the whole world buzzing about Orange Man for another 4 years, because the first 4 years was so fucking annoying that everybody cheered that he lost just so they incorrectly prayed that everybody would shut the fuck up about it.
Dude, I remember, oh my God. I specifically remember in the 2020 election, like I was arguing with a friend about this, and I was like, it was either a friend or like someone online. It was a friend, but I can't tell if it was online or like in person.
Yeah.
I asked, they were like shilling for Biden, like telling me that this was like going to be like the next FDR because of the way he was talking about like the $15 minimum wage and the healthcare and stuff like that, which never happened. And like no one serious was actually listening to that anyway. But it's pretty crazy. The lengths that people will go to, at least like especially like liberals you encounter like in real life, which happens to be the majority of the population. Some crazy shit. Yeah.
We're living. I mean, we've already called out what is probably going to be the future, but holy shit, we are. I'm not going to lie. Like, they're really sticking the landing here. God damn. It's okay, guys. Just watch. I love how he's like, watch me. Watch. And it's like, bro, we're watching and we're seeing you not aware of, like, reality. That's what we're watching. Maybe it is 5D chess. Maybe he's like, watch me. VP Trump. President Putin. And we're like, right, okay. That's supposed to calm everybody. I'm not going to lie, though, I'm a little surprised. I thought they would just gaslight everybody right until the finish line of like, yeah, no, he's fine. He's super sharp. He's doing great. He's the best ever. He poops his pants only twice a day. It's real good. I thought they'd just keep going till the end. I didn't expect this turn where the whole media apparatus is like switching on him. And this is how you can tell he's a narcissist, because he's becoming more unhinged the more criticism he gets. That's a classic tell. Because normal people, they can accept criticism. They can handle it. They're like, yeah, I fucked up there. Or like, yeah, you know what? Like, that's a flaw of mine. Only narcissists get more unhinged the more criticism they get. And that's because they depend on external sources to regulate their self-esteem. They don't have anything. Normal people just have self-esteem. They just have self-worth. Narcissists don't. They depend on external validation to regulate how normal people just feel normally. That's why you're seeing him like he's spiraling down with the media spiraling down with him, because he's losing all of his sources of like positive affirmation.
Well, he was baby in my presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's share this one.
My numbers are better in Israel than they are here. But then again,
yeah,
there's a lot of other people here too. But anyway.
Yeah, I fucking bet, buddy.
It's a good one.
Take a test.
Well, look, two things. One, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist. In each case, as recently as February. And they say I'm in good shape, okay? Although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But
okay.
I'm good. I'm tested every single day about my neurological capacity, the decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember when the staff, I said, I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II.
What the fuck?
That's crazy, dude. Do you understand how insane that is?
What are you even saying, my guy? Oh my god.
There's a whole history there, too. With, like, the Japanese Empire.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to bring Japan and North Korea back together.
It's like one of those machines with the claw. It's just Joe Biden's brain. It's just random thoughts in those little things. You don't know what thought it is. And then you just bring the claw down. It brings up a thought. And it just like, Japan, North Korea back together. All right, that's coming out of my mouth.
That's it. That's what we're going to do.
That's it. All right, anyway. We're coming up to 2 hours. I think that might be. Oh yeah, this one.
That there's some breaking ones too.
Me. No one's saying that. No.
Oh, the creepy crypt keeper thing.
Dude, I hate when he does the whistle. It's so creepy.
No one's saying that. I don't know why he does that.
Listen to me. I don't understand it. I simply do not understand it. It doesn't make him look younger.
I think he's trying to be like. I think he's trying to like scare people into not criticizing him or something. I don't know what the fuck he's doing here. He looks feral.
Your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump. Would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
This
no,
was a
unless
smart
they
question.
came back and said, "There's no way you can win." Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
Mr. President,
Thank you.
this ends tonight's press conference.
And
Thanks,
they just
everybody.
end it.
This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Listen to
Your
him.
team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump. Would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, "There's no way you can win." Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
Mr. President,
Thank you.
This ends tonight's press conference. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for bearing through that. What the fuck?
This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Your team came back and showed.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be the crazy one. That was the whole point of why you ran, buddy.
Thankfully, we
the
got a
way he talks
reaction
about our
from
relationship with our-
Rachel Maddow tonight.
Okay.
Chris, and I won't go on at length. I will just say, though, you noted that there were some moments of, startlingly impressive command of the issues. This is just my opinion. He is not only strong on foreign policy, he is just fundamentally right on foreign policy in the way that he talks about it. And again, your mileage may vary. That is how I feel about the way he talks about our relationship with our allies and our relationship with NATO. You can hear his command of the issues, particularly in his asides, like mentioning as an offhand way that it was Turkey really that needed really to be talked into an expansion of NATO that included Finland and Sweden, talking about the numbers of Russian troop losses in Ukraine, talking about the fact that he turned in his notes after he spoke privately with President Xi, alluding to the fact
He turned in his notes.
that Trump had all those weird meetings with the Russians and Putin in which he had no note taker present. I mean, it's even in the little asides where it just shows you he is a master of the foreign policy field and has been for
Because he took notes.
decades in his career in the Senate, the vice president, and the presidency.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's the
I think it's safe. I think it's safe to say that the implosion's going to continue, and we're only in July. What the fuck's going to happen in October?
They're freaking out so much. Like, here we have a Parkinson's doctor. The real condition of Biden is he has a Parkinson's. is Parkinson's disease. 100%.
Noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah, I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordotically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of en bloc turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinsonism is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice that said was a cold, hypophonia. A small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms from Parkinson's. We just had him up there on the screen. If we can put him back. What about the movement? Some people have pointed out the way he walks. Sometimes it's not very fast, small steps. Is that something that is common in people who are battling a disease like Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a hallmark. Shuffling gait, we call that, so little steps. Loss of arm swing from the rigidity. When we walk, we have a nice cadence. You notice he doesn't really swing his arms. And en bloc turning, meaning he kind of pivots around his foot. If you said, hey, President Biden, he wouldn't go like this. So, yeah.
But I also know, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it's very hard to diagnose Parkinson's, isn't it? It's not simple. I mean, I've heard that it can be.
It's one of the easier movement disorders to diagnose, actually.
Right,
but it's so clinic. There's very little other. And I'm a Democrat. I always say about this.
Right.
It's just like this guy is not a hard case.
But I've had relatives who have gone through neurological issues, and I've heard that sometimes Parkinson's is not very easy to nail. You have to take a lot of tests.
It's early on. If you're just presented with like hallucinations, that could be a variety of things, or just the cognitive problems. That could be Alzheimer's versus Parkinsonism, and that becomes a little nebulous. But once you start manifesting the hallmark motor symptoms,
right?
Slow movement, rigidity, mass facies, hypophonia. I mean, if a med student did not pick Parkinson's on the test, they'd be remediated.
So let me ask you, you're a Democrat, you're a doctor. You sound like you're frustrated with what the White House is saying.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because, I'm an American before everything. And I look at it and say, when I used to see Russia, Soviet Union, North Korea, when they just make outrageous things, like when North Korea can't keep the lights on and they say, it was some faulty power thing. I kind of hate that kind of stuff. What? They had 4 years. My own party had 4 years to find, this was a wreck in slow motion. And they had 4 years to find out of 350 Americans, one person that could take the place. And here we are the day before school trying to do the homework and replace a guy who's got a neurodegenerative disease.
Dr. Pitt.
Dude, that's insane.
He could diagnose him from across a mall.
A wreck in slow motion. When is he going to be replaced? That's my
I feel like he'll be replaced pretty soon. This whole I'm going to be defiant and ignore reality.
Well, before the convention or after the convention?
Probably during the convention. I feel like that's going to be the big okay, we're moving in a different direction thing. If he even makes it that long, maybe the heart attack gun will come. We're not sure, but yeah, it's going to be interesting times for sure. But yeah, he's definitely not gonna. He's not running all the way to November. Absolutely not.
What's surprising me the most is that the biggest defenders of the dementia cook are like the 2016 Bernie-crats.
Yeah.
This is David Pakman. Listen to carefully what he's saying here.
If President Biden has Parkinson's, so what? It makes no difference to me. It would do nothing to dissuade me from voting for him.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to that.
Progression.
The Biden has neurodegenerative disease. He has fucking Parkinson's. Who would you trust? Who would you hire? Who would you hire to do service for you that has Parkinson's? Like your trash collector, your dishwasher,
Leader of the free world, apparently.
Would you trust them to be a doctor? A doctor with Parkinson's, or maybe like a
of Parkinson's disease and these related Parkinsonian disorders, they really vary, but they are typically slow to progress. In the early stages, the first 3 years, you're talking about stiffness and sometimes mild tremors. Minimal impact on daily activities. Almost everyone in the first 3 years can perform whatever tasks they were previously performing. You then get
yeah, but David, it's not the first 3 years. We didn't just suddenly, oh my God, he has some problems. It's been the thing this whole time. His nickname was Sleepy Joe when he was running. Okay, so if you're talking about the 3 years, the 3 years are over, David. We're on year 4 now. What's now? What's now, Dave?
Years, 3 to
let's count. Let's see.
7 years where symptoms get worse. It can take 15 years to get what would be called late-stage Parkinson's. So would it be a big story if the White House were hiding that Joe Biden has Parkinson's? It would. It would. Does it have any bearing on how I would vote in November? Absolutely none.
That is Max Bloom. Like, if this was World of Warcraft, he is an epic level 50 Max Blue Maga, full Biden spec, anarcho Biden spec.
How do you do this? How do you?
It's a cult. It's a fucking cult at this point. And the hilarious thing was, these were the people who were correctly, I will admit, telling the MAGA people that they were in a cult. Guess what, motherfuckers? Both sides of y'all are in a cult. You're warring cults. You're two cults saying my Kool-Aid's better, my Kool-Aid's better, and at the end of the day, you're both all going to kill yourselves. That's the reality.
It is bizarre. It is truly, truly bizarre. I want to pull up Glenn Greenwald's tweet on this. There's been a lot made over who would support Trump no matter what. But if you don't see that Dem partisans are at least fanatically and blindly supportive, it's because you don't want to see it. The resistance was structured as a cult, and it has grown as one.
Slow to progress.
So, that's the words of Glenn. And what's crazy is we have AOC coming out with the earlier endorsement.
I've spoken with him extensively. He made clear then, and he has made clear since, that he is in this race. The matter is closed. He had reiterated that this morning. He has reiterated that to the public. Joe Biden is our nominee. He is not leaving this race. He is in this race, and I support him. Now, what I think is critically important right now is that we focus.
They're all coming out of the woodwork. They're either, like, it's so strange. They're either jumping ship or coming out of the woodwork to defend a genocidal dementia patient.
I think this is a real mask-off moment, because I think this is where the curtain finally falls, and you understand who is truly reactionary and who isn't. Because the people who are being the most loyal to this candidate are the so-called progressives. And it's kind of funny, because if you look at it under a microscope, it's like, okay, well, were they ever authentic about their positions at all?
What do you think of this? So, like, this is.
Shout out to Savvy.
Yeah, for posting this. I was not aware of this. I don't really pay attention to PSA, but it's over her her support of her Palestine, and her, like, dealing with, like, Jewish leaders and stuff like that. She's completely cucked. Completely cucked. It's kind of crazy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like we say, all lies will be revealed in 2024, and we're seeing
a great expose.
All of the frauds and charlatans that we all may have or may have not been fooled in the past. All the smoke's clearing.
Now they're allowed to tell the truth about 2020, by the way.
And I've said this over and over again. Joe Biden was not picked in 2020 because he was the only person who could beat Trump. He was picked because he was the only person that could beat Bernie Sanders, rightly or wrongly. And by the way, for the Sanders fans out there, I'm not judging, but that conclusion was made. Okay. Oh my gosh. Coming out of Nevada, Bernie Sanders is going to be the nominee. And people, just like they are now, back then said, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. So they were looking for an alternative. And tip of the hat to Joe Biden, he had the record. 8 great years as vice president. And I've said this over and over again.
And then the Iowa shit happened. Obama got the fall. They got Buttigieg, Warren. They got all of them to drop out. And suddenly they're allowed to they're allowed to say it now. They're allowed to say, like, Biden was. There's a whole book on it. How Biden was basically handed his presidency to him. It was like his last dying wish. Like this presidency for Joe Biden. And let's get this straight. This Joe Biden presidency was basically like a Make-A-Wish Foundation. Like, that was his, like,
yeah.
It was basically like his, like, like, I have Parkinson's. I just want to be president for one term. He said that he was going to run for only one term.
Yeah, well, that was a lie, like everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're coming up on time here,
and I have to. I have to pee too. I want to say goodnight and everything before I go empty my bladder. So
yeah, and you're gonna be off for a couple weeks, as I understand.
Yes, I'm gonna be in the homeland in Europe and
the motherland.
Yeah, Slovenia, the Balkans, Bosnia, Croatia. So I'm going to be off for 2 weeks. You could, I mean, if you want, you could go get it or something like that. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll have a couple weeks of mixing it up.
Use a break anyway.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And
all the new subscribers, we're past 2K now, and everyone that keeps like flooding in, we appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to all the shows.
Yeah, I'll be streaming Saturday night, and special announcement. But Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I will be on Hard Lens Media with Kit Cabello. We'll be talking about some of Biden's pathologies, so that's going to be interesting. Be sure to tune in there. I'll be sure to share it. And yeah, as always, guys, keep questioning everything.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, wait. Like I said, check out the INN news segment from yesterday. Tomorrow, I'm not sure what's going on, but we have, you're going on Kids Show tomorrow. Then we have, I'm going to try our calendar. Can't find it. I'm going to save it. I'm going to bookmark that next time. But Saturday review, and we're rocking. We're rocking here. 9 a.m. Saturday.
We most certainly
have
are.
a good night, y'all. Hope you have a good night. We have a Havana syndrome president. Let's rock it to the end.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Let's all enjoy this shit show together. Good night. Oops. Dude.